Australian scientists say they've discovered the way breast cancer secretly spreads around the body. Researchers at the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre have identified the way breast cancer cells switch off the immune system and hide in the bloodstream. Dr. Belinda Parker specialises in breast cancer biology at the Peter MacCallum Centre. She joins us now from our Melbourne studios. Dr. Parker, thank you for joining us. You and your team have discovered how breast cancer cells secretly move around the body. It seems they put on masks, if I understand correctly, and switch off the body's ability to detect them. What's actually going on?
We've found that these breast cancer cells actually switch off a number of immune signals to go through the body undetected by the immune system and allow them to spread to distant tissues such as the bone.
So how are they actually doing that? Because I understand this is a similar sort of process that other diseases move through the body as well, like hepatitis and MS.
Yes, well actually when a breast cancer patient comes into the clinic, a high proportion of them will have cancer cells that have spread into their bloodstream. But what we don't know is what changes in those cancer cells to allow them to grow in distant tissues like the bone. And what we've found is that by switching off these immune signals, they can actually go undetected, and so the immune system cannot kill them and they can thrive and grow in the bone environment.
Which means that they can go for quite some time before they are detected, and by which case it may be too late.
That's right. Usually we don't detect bone metastases till very late, and the treatments for these patients are often not curable. So what we've found is a way to look at a patient's primary cancer, so the cancer in the breast, and determine whether they're likely to have spread of their disease to bone if they've actually switched off these immune signals in the primary cancer.
How did you make this discovery?
Well, we knew that these cancer cells can live in the bloodstream and the bone marrow for a long time, and something changes to allow them to spread to the bone. So we compared breast cancer cells growing in the bone to those that don't spread. And we found that they're actually very different, and they've switched off hundreds of different genes to allow them to hide and grow there.
All right, I think we've got a graphic here that we can show our viewers of these cancer cells that have migrated into bone. Tell us what this image shows.
This is a human bone metastasis, which is breast cancer that has spread to the bone. And if you can see down in the left-hand side, they grow as little pockets of cells, and they can be held there for some years. But then something enables them to grow into very large cancers, and we think that one of the critical steps is losing the ability to be recognised by the immune system.
Now, one of the things is that with this discovery is that we know that other diseases act in a similar way, which means there's already a template for treatment, isn't there?
That's right. We know that the immune system can recognise other cells and abnormal changes. For example, the same signals are released when you have a bacterial or a viral infection. So these therapies that switch these immune signals back on are already available for cancer, melanoma, and also hepatitis, MS and other diseases. So there is a treatment available currently that is in use in patients that can switch these immune signals back on, and we hope this has a lot of promise for breast cancer patients. How
well can that translate, and how well is that going to make a difference in terms of mortality rates from people who've got that secondary migration of the cancer cell?
Well, what we're hoping is to stop cancer in its tracks before it forms those large cancers in the bone. So what we know from our studies, if we look at the cancer when it's still in the breast, we can determine which patients are likely to have spread to the bone. So what we're hoping is that those patients that have lost those signals could be treated early to prevent the spread, rather than trying to treat the cancer when it's already in the bone.
All right, Dr. Parker from the Peter MacCallum Centre, thank you for joining us.
No worries, thanks.
Let's take a look at business.